2019 was absolutely loaded with great gaming titles. It had games set in desolate futures with crazy stories, games set in the faraway reaches of space with cool weapons, and even an entry into the Star Wars universe that had some of the best combat that IP has ever seen. I didn't have time to dump 50 hours into all of them, but I played quite a few of the games that were released in 2019, and found myself coming back again and again to a handful of standout titles. In this episode, we will be going over my favorite games of the year and talk a bit about why they were. I'm not doing any sort of genre or platform-specific breakdowns, and have instead opted for 5 categories: favorite single-player game, favorite multiplayer game, favorite indie title, favorite compilation, and favorite digital-only release. I hope you guys enjoy my favorite games of 2019. Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night was released in June of 2019, developed by the independent studio Artplay and published by 505 Games. It was produced by Castlevania series veteran Koji Igarashi, and the entire game is meant to be a spiritual successor to the Castlevania games in just about every way. While we lose the direct story connected to Dracula, we stay on a similar theme with demons. You play as Miriam, a shardbinder capable of absorbing the powers of demons and then using those powers against them. The story centers on her fight with Jeeble, another shardbinder intent on bringing ruin to the world. This plays similar to the other Castlevania titles that were done under Igarashi, particularly Symphony of the Night. If you enjoyed the story, gameplay, and general flow of that title, more than likely you will enjoy this as well. It uses the 2.5D style of presentation, or 3D polygons played from a fixed, side-scrolling perspective. It's a pretty good looking game overall considering it came from such meager beginnings, but the visuals and art style was quite pleasing to my eyes. Miriam starts out with very little, and you'll quickly upgrade her with demonic powers and equipment that will make her nearly unstoppable. And that is pretty much the entire gameplay hook here. Explore the vast map, discover new enemies and items, and gain new powers and equipment. You'll push yourself further and further to see what's behind the next door, or what terror lies behind the next boss battle. I thoroughly enjoyed just about everything here, and only its lack of multiple characters to play in its initial release and the poor performing Switch version were a disappointment. This one has been on sale a few times really cheap, and I think it's very much worth a look if you haven't done so already. I have a tie for my favorite compilation this year, and both of them are from Konami. Developed by the rock stars at M2, we received Castlevania Anniversary and Contra Anniversary collections in May and June of this year. The Castlevania release includes the first 3 NES games, the 2 Castlevania Adventure Game Boy releases, Super Castlevania IV, Castlevania Bloodlines, and the previous Japanese Famicom exclusive Kid Dracula. Konami even released an update that includes some of the Japanese versions of these games, which do feature some differences from their Western counterparts. The emulation here is solid, and the sheer amount of gameplay included is very much worth its asking price. I've seen it on sale for half price, which makes the value proposition here point blank a no-brainer. These are some of the finest 8 and 16-bit games you can play, and to have them all in one place officially is very nice. It's even on the Nintendo Switch, which adds portability to add to the appeal. Contra Anniversary Collection very much follows the same thinking. We get the arcade version of the first 2 games in the series, the 2 NES releases, Contra 3, Contra Hard Corps, and even some Game Boy goodness to mess around with. Also, like Castlevania, we get different regional releases as well, including additional Japanese and European variants. The run-and-gun genre has always been a favorite of mine, mostly thanks to the co-op gameplay and challenge. Again, M2 does a bang-up job on the emulation, and being able to switch around between the various versions of these games is pretty damn cool. It's available on every major platform, and again, the Nintendo Switch version brings the appeal of portability to the table. It's worth its retail price and then some, and when it goes on sale, it's practically a steal. I'm really hoping Konami or some other third party decides to release physical copies of this at some point in the future. When it comes to digital-only releases, the sheer volume of choice is utterly overwhelming. I mean, there is so much to wade through, even the most dedicated gamer could get lost in its many releases. This one was easy for me, however, because it's the best port of this game by a mile. Released in June of 2019, M2 was back again at the helm in the finest release in the Sega Ages line, Virtua Racing. Wow, did they ever do an incredible job porting over this Sega Model 1 classic. This game has never looked this clean, run this smooth, or played this well, even in the arcade. All 3 tracks from the original are here, and include a few extra options to spice up the gameplay a bit, including 8-player races. The only part of this package that is disappointing was the lack of a few of the additions from other games in the series, such as the 32X version's additional tracks. That's okay though, because when a port is this well done for $8, I'll take it without much complaint. This really shows that M2 is fully capable of emulating Sega's 3D arcade machines, and could pave the way for titles from the Model 2 era of arcade releases. Heck, I'd be excited for a better than arcade perfect port of the first Virtua Fighter if this is the quality we can expect. In September, the Coalition and Xbox Game Studios released Part 5 in the Gears of War franchise. I'll be honest here, I stopped caring about the story of these games years ago. The draw to this series for me these days is the multiplayer, particularly the co-op based stuff. There is a ton of replay value here for those looking to play both local and online modes. You have the story and horde mode that can be played co-op, and a ton more versus modes that you can run and gun until your heart's content. Gears of War 5 is a great looking game too, particularly if you are running it on the X platform, which you are seeing here. Sometimes I find myself getting killed just looking at the damn environment details sometimes. When I look for a great multiplayer experience these days, it has to have both couch co-op and internet-based options, and Gears 5 has everything you need whether you want to crush a friend beside you or work together with a bud across the country. This game has you covered. If you have a few friends in tow that enjoy shooters, you can do much worse than this. Sometimes a game just nails exactly what you want in every category. Graphics, sound, gameplay, story, and environment, it all just comes together in every way you want it. The Resident Evil 2 Remake was that game for me this year. Released in January, it sought to reimagine the classic PlayStation game with new gameplay and story elements, and boy did it get pretty much everything spot on. First, the visuals have received a massive upgrade, and not just because of the hardware power of today's machines. Capcom threw out the fixed camera angles of the original and opted for a fully 3D third-person view that allows you to explore every nook and cranny of this world close up. It brings to life Raccoon City like never before. This new viewpoint also brings with it a huge upgrade to the gameplay as well. No longer stuck with the previously mentioned fixed angles, you now are up close and personal with every monster in the game. This brings with it a ton of oh shit moments, particularly when the tyrant is running you down and you are trying desperately to avoid him. The overall story remains the same, but it's been tweaked and expanded here to give you more to do and discover. Most remakes fail to live up to the lofty expectations of its fans, but here, Capcom could not have been more faithful and on point than the end product we received. As if that wasn't enough, there are even more add-on episodes for you to play, expanding characters and story even further. Capcom is also in the process of remaking Resident Evil 3 in the same way, and if it turns out to be anything like what we've seen here, it's another day one purchase for me. Resident Evil 2 was my favorite single-player game of the year, and my favorite release overall. I cannot recommend it enough. 2019 ends with a lot of stuff to play across every platform and genre. Even if you found these games not to your liking, I'm sure whatever you found on your platform of choice was more than good enough. I'd love to hear what those games were, just in case I missed some good ones myself. 2020 is already shaping up to be a great year itself, and there are already some must-play games on my list. There is also a new generation of consoles upon us, no doubt bringing some new IPs with them that will hold some surprises. I hope you guys had a great 2019 and wish you and your family a happy new year. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.